What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Rational Dad Podcast. I'm your host, Adam. Today I'm going to be discussing a topic that surrounds comedy, woke culture. The video I'm going to be delving into is called Abby Roberts on Why Comedy Needs to Push Back Against Woke Culture. Once comedy goes, we're in trouble. Listen, the reason, I don't know if people fully understand why that's the case, because that is true. I think the reason you have to leave comedy alone when it comes to being liable for what you say is because they're making jokes. And the sentiment is that if you cannot even make jokes of things, you can't even try to make people laugh about, tough topics, then you've lost the ability to talk about it at all. Because if you can't talk about it as a joke, if you can't make jokes about something, then you literally can't even talk about that thing. And then discourse is over. The First Amendment is gone. If you get to a point where jokes become like legal issues, you know what I mean? Like you get in trouble for saying things. So people, woke culture should have zero bearing on what happens in comedy, especially, but everywhere, but especially comedy. All right, here we go. Let's get into this.
Abby Roberts is with me in the studio tonight to discuss why comedy must push back to save free speech. And Abby Roberts, you have sympathy for these folk. I know, well, maybe empathy, actually, because you've gone through something similar as a comedian who, by the way, one of my favourites, because you're not prepared to be censored.
No, I will say the comedian's job is to be funny, make people laugh, to release tension in the room. When you go into a big club, everyone's a bit like this in the audience. Then you come out, you do your first joke. It's like the tradition, in the first 5 seconds, get the laugh, and you can feel everyone's shoulders relaxing. That's the job of a comedian. A comedian does not want to be giving a sermon. You do not want to turn up to a club and go, "Hello, everybody, I'm Abby Roberts, and today we're going to be talking about the 652,000 million genders, and also, please behave yourself." You do not want that. You want, people have had a hard day at
Funny story. Sorry, stopping that right there. That's not a very flattering look, ma'am, and I am sorry, Abby. So we went to a Christopher Titus comedy show here locally a couple months ago, and I know Christopher Titus is a very, very left-wing guy, which is fine. Whatever. I'm more center right, but I don't mind being made fun of. I don't mind hearing political jokes that make fun of my side, whatever. But what Christopher Titus did is exactly what she's explaining. Now, I will say in his defense, Christopher Titus had some moments in that show where he had me crying laughing. Some of it was really, really funny. But a large portion of his show was also this very extremely preachy, it's ideological comedy, and it was a lot of woke ideology, and it was very disappointing because it's obvious when a comedian can find the funny in things, and that's the goal, right? What's not so obvious is when they start preaching to you. It's obvious to me anyway, and I'm sure it's obvious to you guys, that whenever they get preachy and you can tell they have an ideology that they're working on. They're trying to convince you of something. They're taking their ideology and trying to make that funny instead of just being funny and finding irregularities in life in general. It doesn't matter what political side of the aisle that happens to fall on. But they don't do that. They only attack the other, and they make all these ideological jokes. And look, I think they should have the right to do it. I think they should have the right to be as good or as sucky at comedy as they can possibly be. I'm just saying that kind of preachy comedy is such a turnoff.
at work, they're stressed about stuff. They do not want to be thinking really about anything other than laughter. And you certainly don't want other comedians, which is happening now, we'll get onto, who are kind of looking over your shoulder to see what you're doing. That is very eerie. That has never happened before.
In a sort of policing type
Yeah,
way.
absolutely. I mean, someone said to me the other day, it's actually on here, on Saturday night, they said, oh yeah, well, you know, when you do stuff, it's like, you know, you can talk about your own lived experience. And I was like, well, in which case I'd have to be health secretary to take the piss out of Matt Hancock, if that's the way the logic is going, you know. So no, it's like to me, comedy is the freest. Should be the freest thing. In fact, it's the one thing I think it's very interesting that a few comedians like myself are kind of talking out more, because we feel that we have to really defend free speech as well as comedy.
Well,
the
what
art
I
of comedy.
love, and I absolutely praise you for doing that. And obviously, there are.
I heard something a little while back, and someone said something that made a lot of sense that I didn't think about before, but when they said it, it made a lot of sense, which is that a lot of these comedians, these woke comedians, they're doing a lot of their bits are designed to get claps and not so much laughs. They're trying to get people on their side. They're trying to say the right thing, and it's so cowardly because they know their crowd, so they say these ideological jokes that they know that the people will agree with. So in that, and you may get some laughs, and everyone will feel good, but it's because they're in your little bubble there. Everyone agrees with each other. The comedian is making jokes about the other side that are just like hateful, but hey, it's funny because it's coming from my side. A good comedian, a great comedian, pushes the boundaries, knows where the truth is from the lie, and it doesn't matter which side of the political aisle that falls on, and they push those boundaries, and they make fun of the lie. You know what I mean? And it's not happening a whole lot right now. I mean, you have a few comedians. Like, my favorite comedian is Louis C.K., and I know he's a left-leaning guy, but he doesn't matter. His comedy is it's straight comedy, man. So, all right, I went on a little bit of a tangent there.
Some comedians here on GB News, led by obviously the brilliant Andrew Doyle,
Yes.
who do that too on Free Speech Nation. But what I'm also liking, Abby, is that Netflix, obviously a powerful broadcaster, in this case, hasn't given in to the cancel culture mob. And I think part of that is because Dave Chappelle is uncancelable. He doesn't need Netflix. This is one of the most famous comedians in the world. He can go on his own platform. So in some ways, it's really important when these very, very famous comedians, Ricky Gervais is another one, hold firm.
Exactly.
Don't apologise.
Do not apologise. And you know what? Sometimes it was the other day I was listening to a podcast, you know, and Dave Chappelle, well done Netflix, I have to say first, for saying no. He's doing his job. You know, he's punching up, punching down, punching sideways, and most importantly, he's going for the punchlines. That's what we have to know about Dave Chappelle.
You know, I also want to give a shout out to Netflix here because, look, Netflix is obviously one of those, you know, very progressive companies. And in the past, they've made some decisions based on shows. They've allowed some shows to exist that I don't agree with, which is fine. You know, that doesn't matter. That's not my point. My point is that whenever the outrage happened with Dave Chappelle, if they were to follow strictly their ideological views, they would just give in and take it off the platform. But they're not doing that. They're sticking with Dave Chappelle. Now, would they allow any comedian to keep these views on their platform? No. I don't believe that. I think if there was a comedian, there's a lot of comedians, they would probably just take it down or something, maybe push it, you know, bury it in the algorithm. But Dave Chappelle is uncancelable. Uncancelable. I think I said that right the first time. Uncancelable. Uncancelable. And uncancelable. Uncancelable. So, good for Netflix to sticking to free speech and sticking to the principles that these are jokes and that they're allowed to exist. Just because they hurt your feelings doesn't mean that we have to get rid of them. Good for them. Got to give credit where credit's due.
But also, you know, I was listening to a podcast, and there was this comedian. It was like a comedian's podcast, and there was this comedian defending his routine. The host was kind of grilling him, going, "Well, don't you think that was a bit offensive?" And this guy, who's a really good comedian, was going, and I thought, no, say to him, I own it. You have to own your jokes. You're a comedian. You're not a social worker.
Well,
you know?
Maybe I've got this wrong, right? Maybe I've got this wrong. But I've always believed that comedy was meant to cause offence.
Yeah, well, I mean, Lenny Bruce. Look at the great American comics. Lenny Bruce, Chris Rock, Sam Kinison. All people, by the way, who, when you saw them live, it was like, oh my God, Sam Kinison dripping with sweat with a bandana on his head, shouting into a microphone. You want that element of like a little bit, sort of like a bit naughty, like, oh, I'm here, and it's like a religious experience, And
you know why you need that outlet? I just thought of this because it's hard to go to a place in society, like at work, around family, where you can just say offensive things and laugh about things that you probably shouldn't laugh about, and uncomfortable subjects. So it's important to you need that release. You need that outlet. So if you have a comedian that you really enjoy his or her content, and you think that just let you go, belly laugh at silly, offensive things, you should have every person that has ideas and has a side and has things that type of thing that makes them funny, or a type of thing that's funny to them, I should say. You need every comedian on every stroke of life to be able to go see those people and laugh at those things that are offensive. It's important that comedians are offensive. We can't just shove all these feelings of not wanting to laugh at things that are messed up because they're funny. We can't just tuck those inside and just hold on to that. Now, I don't know what kind of mental damage that would do, but it seems to me to be healthier to be able to go somewhere where it's safe to laugh at fucked up things. You cannot take that away from society. You can't bottle anything up forever. Everything needs some sort of release.
To be honest with you, if you're offended,
hope that made sense.
yeah, and it's like a religious experience, And to be honest with you, if you're offended, leave.
Well, I'm
Walk
sorry,
out.
Abby, can you imagine how many times today Joan Rivers would be cancelled?
Oh,
and
yeah.
she's one of our great female comics, and she simply would not be allowed to do what she did in today's climate.
No.
And that brings me on to the Billy Connolly situation. And how disturbing to think one of our greats, one of our absolute greats, probably would have been cancelled because, of course, his comedy poked at religion.
Absolutely, he did. He's joked about Islam, he's joked about Catholicism, joked about everything. Everything is on the table for Billy Connolly. But the great thing about Connolly and Chappelle is that when they're doing stuff, and you can watch this with both of them, they say something and then they kind of go. There's a little look in the eye where they're basically saying, am I really saying what I think? Am I maybe not? Who knows?
Yeah.
That's where the nice, that really nice sweet.
What a great observation from her, where they have these moments where it's kind of like, am I really saying this right now? Like, you can tell that they know they're pushing some sort of boundary. They know that they're pushing a certain button that is going to get them in trouble. Not in trouble, but you know what I'm saying. Like, they're going to face a lot of backlash. Good observation, lady.
Sweet spot is, and who knows?
Yeah.
That's where the nice, that really nice sweet spot is, And great comics have it, all of them.
No, you're completely right. Well, look, we've got to keep fighting this fight.
We do.
And thank goodness in this case, Netflix hasn't given in, because obviously there's a lot of their staff in California.
There's a lot of money involved in there too. Netflix has paid him, I think I saw like $24 million for that last special. They're all just going to take it off. There's no way.
Who are tearing their hair out over this. So I hope they stand firm. They need
Yep,
to stand firm.
they do.
And we need to ignore the people trying to cancel comedians on a daily basis, because otherwise comedy is going to become left-wing, woke, boring and lame. You know, a bit like watching the BBC, Abby?
Yeah, exactly. A bit like watching the BBC. Exactly. Like boring. Like you don't want comedy to be beige. You want people to kind of go, oh, I can't believe they said that. Or, you know, so, you know, we have to save comedy.
Yeah.
Once comedy goes, we're in serious trouble.
Well said. Well said. I love comedy, man. I really do. But I really think that it's very important for the adults in this country to push back against this cancel culture. If you're watching this right now and you're an adult, then you don't take sides. It doesn't matter if the comic is right-leaning, left-leaning. Doesn't matter if they're saying things that are just offensive to you or not offensive to you. We have to get used to, we have to normalize again that it's all okay. It's all okay. They're just jokes. Because what we're really just trying to protect are people's feelings. I mean, you know, you have it easy in a country where the main thing that we're trying to protect people from are feelings. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I'm Gen X. Don't give a fuck about your feelings. And you know what? That was okay. Made me tough. I mean, I'm not that tough, but I don't cry about stuff. Things that hurt my feelings. Jokes are like, if I like, there was some stuff that Christopher Titus was talking about that was kind of offensive. It didn't make me feel good. Just because I thought it was so illogical. And part of it just wasn't funny. That kind of played a role too. But you know what I didn't do? I didn't make a huff and puff about it. I just didn't enjoy it. And then I moved on with my life. That was it. And I was like, I'll never go watch another one of his shows. That's how it works. When you hear something that offends you, fucking deal with it. Just deal with it. Move on. But people having to apologize and people having to just self-censor for your feelings. I mean, come on, what are we doing? Dude, there's like a billion things to care or not care about in this world right now. Go find something you care about and get the fuck out of our faces. All right, guys, I'm getting out of here. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.